I call the Committee on the Budget to order and note that a quorum is present. Before we begin, I want to take this time to welcome all returning and new members of the committee to our organizational meeting for the 117th Congress and go over a few housekeeping matters. Some of these will actually be repeating what you just heard a minute ago. At the outset, I ask unanimous consent that the chair be authorized to declare a recess at any time. Without objection, so ordered. We are holding this proceeding virtually in compliance with the regulations for committee proceedings pursuant to House Resolution 965, carried over to the 117th Congress via HRes 8. I'd like to remind members that we have established an email box for submitting documents before and during committee proceedings, and we have distributed that email address to your staff. Consistent with regulations, the chair or staff designated by the chair may mute participants' microphones when they are not under recognition for the purposes of eliminating inadvertent background noise. Members are responsible for unmuting themselves when they seek recognition. We are not permitted to unmute members unless they explicitly request assistance. If I notice that you have not unmuted yourself, I will ask you if you would like the staff to unmute you. If you indicate approval by nodding, the staff will unmute your microphone. They will not unmute you under any other conditions. Members must have their cameras on and be visible on screen in order to be recognized. As a reminder, members may not participate in more than one committee proceeding simultaneously. Again, you will need to unmute your microphone each time you wish to be recognized. During a voice vote, you will need to unmute yourself so we can hear your response. For a recorded vote, you will need to unmute yourself to respond to the clerk once your name is called. In responding to the clerk, instead of just saying aye or no, please respond with a sentence similar to Yarmouth from Kentucky votes aye. This will provide additional time for the voting member to be identified and made visible on the platform so that the clerk records you properly. Finally, to maintain safety in light of the attending physician's new guidance and the speaker's announcement on January 4th, any members present in the hearing room, and I don't know if there are, must wear a mask at all times and are required to keep their masks on when seeking recognition and speaking. For those members not wanting to wear a mask, the House rules provide a way to participate remotely from your office without being physically present in the hearing room. With that, I'd like to welcome all new and returning members to our organizational meeting. To our ranking member, Mr. Smith, I look forward to serving on the committee with you. While we may have very different views, and having spent time with you over the last Congress, I know we do, I plan to continue the friendly and respectful approach our committee has enjoyed through the years. Before I recognize you for your opening statement, I would like to introduce the Vice Chair and welcome and introduce the Democratic members of the committee. I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Boyle of Pennsylvania will serve as Vice Chair of the committee. I had the privilege of working with him during the last Congress, and I'm honored to serve alongside him again as my Vice Chair. We have 3 new members and 18 returning members on this side of the aisle this Congress. It is an impressive group, and I'm honored to have them serve on this committee. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our new Democratic members. They are not new to the House, but to the Budget Committee. Judy Chu was elected to serve the 27th District of California in Congress in 2009. She represented her community in local and state government for over 2 decades before coming to Congress. She also serves on the Ways and Means and Small Business Committees. Jennifer Wexton served as a Virginia State Senator before coming to Congress in 2019 to serve the 10th District of Virginia. She also sits on the Appropriations Committee. Stacy Plaskett is an attorney and leader for the Virgin Islands. She worked at the Department of Justice and the U.S. Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority before coming to Congress in 2015. She also serves on the Ways and Means and Agriculture Committees. It's now my privilege to yield to the gentleman from Missouri, the ranking member, Mr. Smith, for opening remarks and to introduce members on the Republican side of the aisle.
Thank you, Chairman Yarmouth. Thank you for convening this meeting today. While there has already been some substantial activity this Congress that falls under the jurisdiction of our committee, this is our first gathering as members of the House Budget Committee for the 117th Congress. As the new Republican leader on the House Budget Committee. I look forward to working with you. As you said, we have different views on a lot of things, but we definitely can work together, and the other fellow committee members as we carry out this committee's importance, duties, and responsibilities. I'd like to take the moment to recognize the Republican members of the committee, a group of individuals who I know bring a tireless commitment and passion to helping ensure the committee's actions to support the America's working class. First, I'd like to recognize Tom Mcclintock. He represents California's 4th Congressional District. His district is arguably the most beautiful in California. Sorry, Jay, and is home to Yosemite National Park. He's a dedicated public servant and has represented Californians in the State House, the Senate, and now Congress. Glenn Grothman has dedicated most of his life in public service. He served in Wisconsin State House, Senate, and now serves as the state's 6th District Congressman. Glenn is a proven leader and was the Assistant Majority Leader back in the Wisconsin Senate from 2011 to 2015. We also have Dr. Michael Burgess. He's the most senior medical doctor on both sides of the aisle, serving in the House of Representatives. He represents Texas' 26th District, where he practiced medicine for nearly 3 decades before being elected to Congress. Buddy Carter has run a successful small business in South Georgia for nearly 30 years. He represents their state's 1st Congressional District. His district includes the entire coastline of Georgia. Buddy married his college sweetheart, Amy, and together they have 3 sons and 5 grandchildren. Lloyd Smucker represents Pennsylvania's 11th Congressional District. Prior to running for Congress, he was a business owner and operator who employed over 150 people. I have the pleasure of serving on 2 committees with Lloyd, as both of us also serve on the Ways and Means Committee. Chris Jacobs, like myself, was elected to Congress in a special election. He represents New York's 27th Congressional District, and prior to running for public office, Chris ran a successful real estate development company. Him and his wife, Martina, have 1 daughter. Ben Klein brings 16 years of experience in the Virginia House of Delegates to D.C. In his short time here, he has proven himself as an effective legislator. In fact, he was the first member in his freshman class to successfully pass legislation that was signed into law. He represents Virginia's 6th District. Lauren Boebert is a loving wife, mother to 4 sons, a very successful business owner, and unfortunately a better shot than I am. She represents the people of Colorado's 3rd District that takes up nearly the entire western half of the state, and as of last year, proudly headquarters the Bureau of Land Management. Byron Donalds proudly represents the people of Florida's 19th District. He had a successful career in finance before entering politics and lives in Naples with his wife Erica and their 3 sons. Randy Feenstra represents Iowa's 4th Congressional District. His work ethic is nearly unmatched. He started working at age 9 delivering newspapers, worked in a local bakery at age 14, and later volunteered as an EMT when he wasn't busy as head of sales for the foreign candy company. Bob Good represents Virginia's 5th District. He was a collegiate wrestler at Liberty University and recently served as their associate athletic director. Him and his wife Tracy have 3 kids and still live near Liberty's campus. Ashley Henson is a native Iowan who represents the state's 1st Congressional District. For nearly a decade, Ashley was an on-air journalist in Cedar Rapids. She traveled the state telling the stories of real Iowans and brings that unique experience and perspective to DC. Jay Obernolte represents the people of California's 8th District. Prior to entering politics, he operated a company that designed family-friendly video games and employed 25 employees. Jay also holds a 3rd-degree black belt in Pacific martial arts and is a co-owner and instructor at Puma Karate in his district. Mr. Chairman, before I conclude, I was wondering if you and if you could yield a few moments where we could ask a few questions about the upcoming process and procedure with the committee.
Yes, Mr. Smith, you can please do. And by the way, are you in the hearing room?
I am.
Okay. The rules do require that you wear a mask in the hearing room. And this is done for the benefit of the staff primarily.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for complying.
Every
Yes.
committee committee hearings different. I know rules does not allow that, so I thought this was a larger committee room, so I
Right.
thought it would be a little bit
Quite all
different,
right.
but you're the
Quite
chairman.
all right. Quite all right.
So during debate, Chairman, on the House floor last week on the budget resolution, you made the point in response to several of our House colleagues that there would be every opportunity to offer amendments when it comes to the upcoming reconciliation package. And in the same exchange, Majority Leader Hoyer noted the same thing. So, Mr. Chairman, will you recommit to us today and assure the members of the committee here that when we mark up the reconciliation bill in this committee in just a couple of weeks, the members of this committee will also be given the opportunity to provide input and ideas into the bill with their motions to instruct?
I thank you for the question, and I misspoke during that debate. I was going to mention, I was planning to mention this. Under the rules of reconciliation, the Committee cannot change any of the provisions that the authorizing committees send to us. So um, I think we've checked, and every one of your members but three is on one of the authorizing committees, and can offer amendments in those committees. And then anyone would have the opportunity to offer amendments to the Rules Committee. But under the Rules of Reconciliation, we can't change anything that the individual committees send to us.
Exactly, but we can have the motions to instruct. And so I just wanted
Yes.
to make
Yeah.
sure that you would allow any of our members who's wanting to offer a motion to instruct that they'll be heard.
You can do that. Yes.
I definitely appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Also, Mr. Chairman, has OMB given you an accounting of where the 1 trillion is unspent in stimulus resides yet?
No, they have not.
Okay. Do you know if they're going to give us that accounting before we have the final vote?
That's a good question, and I will get an answer for you. Obviously, the OMB does not have a director right now, but we can request that of them.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Also, can you, I know that fiscal year 2022 budget will be coming up fairly shortly. This is fiscal year 21 that we've just heard. Will our committee members have the opportunity to actually mark up a budget resolution in this committee? I know that the last one bypassed the committee. We weren't organized yet, but is it your understanding that when we do fiscal year 22 budget resolution that we'll have the opportunity to have amendments and full debate within the budget committee?
Yes.
I appreciate that, sir. I definitely, our committee looks forward to working with you and engaging in a very busy year, it looks like.
We certainly will have one. Thank you, Mr. Smith. So today we meet to adopt the committee's rules of procedure. The rules of the committee are essentially the rules that the committee operated under in the past, under both Republican and Democratic majorities. The changes are largely technical in nature to conform our committee rules to the changes to the House rules that were adopted at the beginning of the 117th Congress. We will now proceed to consider the committee rules for adoption. A copy of the rules package has been distributed to each of you in advance. I'd like to begin by briefly reviewing the proposed rules package. The committee is required to adopt its rules of procedure under Clause 2 of House Rule 11. The rules package covers procedures related to hearings, meetings, and reports. Most of the changes being made to the rules package reflect changes that were made to House rules in January. Following House rules, the committee rules require a 3-day notice for meetings, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, or legal holidays, except when the House is in session. In accordance with House rules, our committee rules require that by March 1st of the first session of a Congress that's coming up in a few weeks, we submit our oversight plan to the committees on House Administration and Oversight and Reform. We will shortly begin our consultation on the oversight plan with the ranking member. Once that process is complete, we will distribute the plan to members who will have an opportunity to submit views. Because the House rules now require the posting of amendments that are offered in markups but are not adopted on our website, we have codified this in our committee rules. This leads to greater transparency with markups. Previously, only amendments adopted by the committee were required to be posted on the committee website. We have also made updates to promote inclusion and diversity by incorporating gender-neutral language in our rules. These changes are modest in scope, and I encourage their adoption. The committee will now proceed to the consideration of the rules package. Without objection, the rules are considered read and are open for amendment at any point. Are there any amendments? Hearing none. I can get to my script. The question is on the amendment. No, sorry. Hold on. The question is
Chairman?
on, yes, I'm sorry.
Could I ask you a question just for clarification on the proposed rules?
Yes.
In regards to the language of changing the pronouns he, she, what does that entail? What will be different from the prior committee to now? I know rules are something we're all supposed to be paying attention to.
Right. I think they mainly relate to, somebody on staff correct me if I'm wrong, they primarily relate to things like whether you refer to chair, chairman, or chairwoman, those types of things, and giving people the option to be designated as chair instead of chairman or chairwoman.
So whenever someone's speaking, we'll just they'll tell us how they want to be identified as, and that's how we'll follow it.
Well, well, I mean, basically, yeah, I've been called chairman, so I'm continuing to be called chairman. Obviously, ranking member is gender neutral. I don't think it relates to anybody else. Are there any other?
I would prefer everyone to call me ranking member man. So I guess whatever. But
okay.
If we have to explain that. Also, I have a question about the rules in regards to PAYGO. That's of how that, especially how you intend to define the scope of what legislation would fall under the climate change exception under PAYGO.
I have not actually thought about, well, I've thought about it, but since we have nothing before us, I really have, I think you pretty much have to have something before you can make that determination.
Okay, just if you could make sure that
the rules don't, I'd be happy to consult with you on that. The rules actually don't provide any guidance on that.
That's why I hope you can give the committee guidance whenever you may have to utilize that. I would appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Now, since there are no amendments, I now recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania for the purpose of offering the necessary motions to adopt the rules package.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee adopt the chairman's mark as the rules of procedure of the Committee on the Budget for the 117th Congress.
The question is on the motion offered by the gentleman from Pennsylvania. As a reminder, please remember to unmute yourself. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The rules package is adopted and will be published in the congressional record and made available to members and the public on the committee's website. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. In keeping with past practice of the committee, I would like to make an announcement at this time because it is required by House rules. The committee rules contain a provision in the long discussed disused practice of holding regular meetings on the second Wednesday of each month. Just as has been done under previous Congresses, the committee is notified pursuant to Committee Rule 3 that all regular meetings for the 117th Congress are canceled. Members will be notified of additional and special meetings, as is our customary practice.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent that the committee be authorized to issue and print copies of the compilation of laws and rules relating to the congressional budget process.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr.
Boyle, you have another motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that the staff be authorized to make any necessary technical, conforming, or stylistic changes to the committee rules.
Without objection, so ordered. That concludes the items of business on the agenda for the House Budget Committee's organizational meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
there's-
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I have my hand up. This is Congresswoman Jackson Lee.
yes,
Can you, yes, thank you
yes,
so very
Ms.
much.
Jackson.
Just wanted a further clarification of the 117th committee hearings. Is that suggesting canceled in terms of the day, and that we will be notified of the time and place and date of our prospective hearings?
That's what it means. The rules have a regular meeting scheduled, which we have not had in a long time. That's not, at least before I was on the committee. So all we're doing is technically saying that all of those regular meetings on the second Wednesday of each month, all of those are canceled. So we will proceed as we normally do, which with providing at least 3 days notice for any other committee business.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your generosity, because some of us who committed to this committee have found several overlapping committees having hearings on Wednesday or that Wednesday. So I appreciate accommodation and collaboration for us to be fully involved in the work of the Budget Committee. Thank you.
Absolutely,
I'll
absolutely.
yield back.
Very welcome. Any other comments? I think I failed to mention at the beginning that if any other members have opening statements they'd like to make, they can be submitted for the record. If anybody does. Well, that concludes the items of business on the agenda for the House Budget Committee's organizational meeting. Without objection, the organizational meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.